Good win for our team. I think, we talked about it after the Marshall game, those physical games, you really need those to just kind of test yourself at a pretty high level. And this was, I mentioned it earlier to David Teal when we were just on the call. He said you got dragged into the fourth quarter against the Marshall team. And in this game, it took all 4 quarters where, they actually had the lead and we had to find a way to come back and handle what we needed to handle. But I think that, the time of possession was what stood out to me. It's been in our favor all week or all year, and it just wasn't in our favor in this one. And I think obviously with a pick 6, that's a very quick, score that happens. But they were really, really doing a good job of staying ahead of the chains, especially in the third quarter. I don't know if there was many in the second quarter. I don't know if there was many third downs even in there for them. They just kept converting, moving the ball down the field. And we needed to just understand the style of football game that was being played. So, went back in at halftime, talked about it, and our guys were able to tackle a lot better, put pads on people, put their full surface on these guys just because they weren't going to go down with just a little shoulder tackle. So overall, a good game. I thought, again, to be on the Thanksgiving break, you were worried about who would show up and if they would show up, and obviously they did an unbelievable job of it. This eventually on one of the drives at the end, causing a delay of game penalty to occur. That is directly related, to the student section, the band, and just our fans, and that's a important part of what we need to be able to continue to do. And in the end, a couple guys stood out. I said to you before, sometimes that light shines on different people, and obviously, Wiz to be able to have the play that he had, Spinagati to be called into action and handle business the way that he did, and then again Morgan to have his career long and a field goal, and then Pat with the punting, just being able to flip the field a little bit was really some things that showed up. And then there were a couple other guys out there. There's a big tackle by T.J. McGill on a kickoff. I think Brian Knott was thrown in, a freshman, into our punt protection at one point and did a phenomenal job. So just a lot of different guys. And I said it before the game, it takes everybody. You just don't know who it's going to be, that's going to be highlighted, but it takes everybody in this program to win a game. And a lot of those guys did just that. So I thought a really good week, and obviously have a tough trip down the Coastal against a team that is 4-1 at home, 3-0 in Sun Belt play at home, and outscoring their opponents, doubling them up, in fact, at their place. So it'll be a tall task, and we're excited to get to work.
I talked to Wayne last week, and he said that when he had to decide to enter the transfer portal before you guys got here, it was the hardest decision he's ever had to make, but then you guys welcomed him back with open arms. When you guys were looking at him to bring him back, how much of it was kind of what he could do on the field versus kind of who Wayne is as a person and wanting that kind of character in the locker room? Yeah, well, back then, to be honest, it came down to, we didn't have a lot of video evidence of Wayne unless you went back to high school and looked at his Delaware, film from his high school back there. It was really more, I think, Ymir talking about Wayne and just saying, he wants to stay here, and explaining the situation of why he was in the portal, enlightened me just a little bit more that he didn't just really walk away and abandon his team. He was in a situation where he wanted to preserve a year and not just be on one special team and run down the field. So it made sense to me, and I think that we've done a good job this year of being able to, keep guys with their red shirts, and now that you're seeing a couple more freshmen get on the field, but not to waste that year just on one special team. So that was ultimately it. And, at that moment in time, too, there was, a pretty big deficit on our roster where we needed bodies, and we needed to figure out, who could help us, but someone that wanted to be here, that was directly connected to the team with his brother, and everybody else that I spoke to as far as leaders had nothing but great things to say about him. So, that was an easy decision. And then when we left here on Saturday, wasn't clear if you guys were going to have another game, just to kind of see how the rest of the weekend played out and know that, I know you guys are focusing on Coastal this weekend, yes, but to even just know that in the future you do get another one here with the fans, like you mentioned earlier, being a difference maker. It was a huge, I think, and just so what a cool moment to be at this level for only a few years, and not only make it to the championship game, but have the opportunity to host it. Just a really rewarding, feeling, I'm sure, for everybody involved in the program. Now, we got to take care of business, obviously, this weekend, and then we got to take care of business when we come back here, but it will take everybody when we end up back here, and we would expect it to just continue to be what it's always been.
I want to ask you update on a couple guys just from Saturday. Do you have an update on Gannon? Yeah,
Gannon, I don't have a full update on Gannon. We're just got to see where he's at. He just got rolled. He already had a little bit something in his ankle, so it just re-aggravated it for him. So we'll just see, how he's able to come back from it. He just got rolled up on pretty good. So I think he'll be fine, but time will tell.
I know Jordan didn't suit up. Do you have an update on him?
I don't know where I do have an update. I think that he is also going to be day by day, really, with his situation. Just nothing that he'll play through anything. So it's going to really come down to the end of the week, and if he feels like he can do it, that it'll be really his decision when it's all said and done.
I know we saw Landon out there too. He suited up. How did you think he looked?
Not great, and he knew it. He didn't have the power he needed. He had like a little low ankle sprain that occurred like on I think Wednesday or something. It happened, so he was trying to get to Saturday and be able to make it, and he just couldn't. He was like, I'm not anywhere near where I need to be for this team. So we ended up putting him aside to making sure that he was going to be okay so that he could play in these next ones.
Are you confident I guess the couple extra days of rest that he.
Oh, I'm confident in Landon for sure. The other two, we will. Time will tell.
I know we haven't seen Io. What's the chances we do see him?
None.
Okay.
Yeah. So Io is right now has this last game. Could you see him in the championship game? Could you see him in further games? Yes. But with injuries and things of that nature, halfway through when we were talking it through, he couldn't get himself back to 100%, and it was the moment of time of should we think about this red shirt or not, and it ended up working in that way where right as of right now we're able to hold on to it. I'm sure if more guys go down and we need him, I'm sure he would do that, but he'd like to preserve that as best he can.
So the red shirt is a possibility.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Now that we're through with that, let's talk about Coastal a little bit. I know their offense, at least in conference play, I think they're fourth in the conference in points.
Yep.
Just what have you seen from them on the offensive side?
Well, they've played a bunch of different quarterbacks already, and I think their guy that they were rolling with most recently is out. I don't know if he'll be out, definitively for this game. We'll wait for that injury report to figure it out. But they are not afraid to push the ball down the field, right? They take shots. They trust their receivers. They got some dynamic guys on the outside in the receiver position. They do a really good job in the running back position as well. They are just physical, downhill, a lot of inside zone stuff, a lot of outside zone. They attach all the RPOs to it. They play with some tempo, and then they involve the quarterback in that run game, quite a bit. A bunch of trick plays. They just do really everything out there. So this is one that, we got to make sure that we're locked in on and understand what they are offensively. Defensively, they kind of base out of an odd, little bit like ODU feel to it with that player that just hangs around the king player that hangs around the top, over top the tight end, and will move with that tight end and kind of cap the defense from up above. So that's one guy you just always got to be aware of as you get into the run game piece of it and in the pass game piece of it. So, again, you said it, but at home they've done really, really well. That is the thing for me that when I look at them, they're 4-1, 3-0 against the Sun Belt opponents. And again, I think score-wise, they're doubling up their opponents at home. So I think it'll probably be a little different with it being Thanksgiving. I imagine they're on. We'll have that break too, but atmosphere. We'll not worried necessarily one way or another about that. We'll play in whatever conditions, but they are a very talented football team that plays with a very different energy at home.
Are they pretty similar to last year, or have they made some changes in terms of?
They are similar to last year. I mean, it's a different offensive coordinator, but ultimately the quarterback run stuff is still in there. It's not as much like triple option-y as it might have been a year ago, but it has the RPOs attached to everything. They have some tempo, and they have guys that can fly.
Coastal was one of those teams that for a while was in the running with you guys to take the Sun Belt East title, and then they've taken some punches recently with injuries as well. How do you prepare your guys to face a team that is probably a little bit angry with how the season has taken a turn for them?
Yeah, well, I think that it's just we understand it. Not every game is the same, right? Not every opponent that we see, what they've shown on film up to this point is what we're going to get. We understand we're getting everybody's best shot, right? We're getting everybody. The bullseye on our back is, increasing, and I think that we understand that we will get everybody's absolute best. So, all of the best plays that they have, imagine we'll see those, and imagine there's a whole bunch of other wrinkles in there, that we haven't yet seen that will show up. So our guys will be locked in. They understand the process. They understand their preparation. They're not worried about necessarily they're worried about the opponent, the schematics and the things that go with it, but they're not worried about trying to figure out somebody else's mentality. They're worried about, the mentality we bring to the game, and at the same point in time, understanding the matchups that exist and then the scheme that follows.
When you get to this point and you're winning at a consistent rate, a lot of outside noise comes into play, whether it's, new job openings, rankings for the CFP. I know you mentioned that the other week that you guys have talked about the rankings, but how do you kind of make sure your team isn't listening to what is outside noises about coaching searches,
Yeah,
rankings of who's in and who's not?
Well, I mean, I just watched this team like go through it. You know, that you go way back to when we first were in the little bit of the conversation. We talked about it. That little number next to your name is pretty awesome, but it doesn't stay there very much longer if you only pay attention to that little number. You got to pay attention to what you've done to get you here. And obviously, anytime anybody's talking about our players, our coaches, you know, whatever it would be, you know, those are all, I think, really great things that talk a lot about just what this program is, that a lot of people want to be part of it, and people want people that are, you know, winning. And why are we in these conversations? It's because of the players and what they do on a day-to-day basis. So the focus, no matter how you spin it and no matter what you talk about, just keeps coming back to get better, right? Keep getting better every opportunity you have, and understand, you know, that the hourglass is turned over, and this year's team will not be next year's team, and they don't have a lot of sand left in that hourglass. So making sure that they make the most out of every opportunity they have together and continue to dance with the one that brought you is really all we could do. I mean, all the other speculation on the outside of, you know, what our percentages are, of how this is going to go, what players are staying, what coaches are going, that's all great. But at the same point in time, it doesn't affect us in a positive way. So that doesn't much matter. Like, it's speculation, and a lot of different people with a lot of different voices that anybody could type anything they want nowadays and don't have to be a credible source in any way. And at the same point in time, you still get credit for saying something. So I think we don't live in that space. Luckily got crypto hacked, you know, recently, so I'm not on there, and it's one of the most freeing things that could possibly happen. So our ability is, you know, just stay the course right now, like we are.
Thanks for the investment advice.
Yeah, did you get that? I told you get in a long time ago, and you fools didn't.
I got the G-Wagon.
Did you? Me too. Yeah, me too.
We talk about the why, a lot of the speculation about it. With this committee, past 2 weeks, whenever JMU's brought into that conversation, they always say it's the strength of schedule that's kind of their big issue, especially in the Sun Belt Conference. Do you think that's a fair evaluation at this point of the year to be able to judge for why a team like yourself would not be in that?
I mean, when we started this season and we talked about this schedule, we said it's the most daunting schedule ever in the history of this program, right? And we understood we were playing the two best teams from the West Side. We understood that Liberty was a phenomenal team that was in there that we had to be able to try to stand toe-to-toe with, you know, and then you had, you know, the Louisville game. And I think that one, to me, you know, the ball's on the 1 yard line with seconds left in the game. You punch it in, you lose by 7. And realistically, there's a strip sack and one run that we just miss a gap, you know, that you're talking about. But this is what it is. The air is thin, and it is a game of inches. You know, you hold on to that football, or you get it out of your hand, and you don't give up 7 on that strip sack, and we just get another, you know, 6 inches to the gap that we're supposed to be in, and that one of those runs don't happen, and we beat them. So I think also the way teams have lost games, I think, should come into the conversation as well. Not only, you know, we can only play who's in front of us, you know, and I think that at that point in time, you know, Louisville was at absolute full power. Their D-line was fully intact. Their receivers were, you know, playing as hard as can be. Their running backs were, and we came up, you know, 14 points, you know, short in the end of it. So I think that if you're considering anything, say we've been doing what we should be doing as the year goes on, and the one loss that we have at that moment in time was to a phenomenal football team, and we had our chances to win that. So they'll do what they do, and they'll figure it out however they want to figure it out, but we don't control anything other than the games in front of us. So that'll be up to them to decide.
Well, you just made a pretty good case there. I know the Sun Belt office will turn in their things to the committee, and I'm guessing JMU probably has information packets and stuff too. Like,
yeah.
Do you contribute at all to like what you think your best case is, or do you just let everybody else?
No, I don't, and maybe I should. I just, man, I probably should focus more on it. I just don't. I focus on, like, what do we need to do to prepare this team for this game coming up on Saturday? And every single day when you wake up in the morning has its whole entire list of things that got to get done, and the way that these guys got to stay focused and motivated and get better. Like, that's all we're focusing on. I don't have a lot of experience in it, so I don't know. Coach Hitchler, you could bring him in here maybe when I'm done and have a conversation with him, because he remembers how all the strength of schedule and losses and all these different things worked a year ago. You know, when he and when he was at Cincinnati, Wisconsin, you know, and obviously Alabama, he understands more of that than I do. I'm just, you know, trying to put the best product on the field we can on Saturday.
Well, to go back to that, like, you talked a lot about what Coastal likes to do offensively. Yeah. Does it vary a lot whether it is Samari Collier or another quarterback getting the stamps for them?
It does. Yes, it does. When it's, they're committed to running the football with him. He's taken over games, by himself and done some phenomenal things. So if he's out there, it just goes back to the Marshall feel and some of those other games where that quarterback is just the absolute, that is the guy where it all spins from. When you get into the other quarterbacks, they are certainly part of it and a huge part of it, but they are not like the guy. There's receivers that get highlighted now. There's screen game that gets highlighted now. The running backs get highlighted now. The trick plays show up. The double moves show up. All those things start showing up now for the quarterback to be able to deliver to them. Everybody's a little bit different. Everybody's skill set's a little different. I think what they do a great job of is fitting the skill set to the players. The pass concepts are very similar. A lot of the run game is similar. The RPO game is similar. It's just that added, extra, which was a huge part of their offense when he's playing, is just not there right now if he's not playing.
You mentioned in your prior answer just about Hitch, just kind of being in these type of environments before. Have you maybe been able to lean on him to ask anything about that? Is this different maybe for you and maybe even for the players? You got a guy like Aiden who was at Notre Dame that's been a part of this. Is it different when you're trying to prepare in this sense of the year?
I don't think so. I think that we know what we did to get here, and I think that's what we have to focus on is what we did to get here and to continue, on this trajectory. Our job is to get better every practice, and then in game, like we say it, every play we're getting better. At every half we get better. Every week we get better, and then hopefully by the time you get to this meaningful games deep into November, that you are playing your best football. That's really the objective of any great team, and that's solely my focus. I think that if there was something, great advice that they had that, they threw my way that I thought, man, our team really needs to understand this. It's just not, it's pretty much like, try to avoid as much as you can, address it, but don't let it affect your Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.